Hello, and welcome to Empowered the Podcast. My name is Linda, and I am your host. I am an empowerment coach, a spirit junkie, a realtor, a proud mom, and a dog mom. I'm also an animal advocate, a child advocate, and someone that overcame a lot of challenges and trauma in my life. This podcast is packed with powerful content, inspiring conversations with amazing guests who will help you heal, grow, and evolve into a better version of you so you can attract in your best and most empowered life. I don't know about you, but I'm not here for mediocrity. I'm here for an abundant, blessed life. Life does not have to be so hard. That is an old program. We can do less and attract more, and I know this to be true. I love bringing you this powerful information. I hope you enjoy, learn, and grow. Have a beautiful day. Hello, and welcome to Empowered the Podcast. I'm your host, Linda Brand. Welcome back. Today's guest is amazing, as usual, Betsy. She is a wanderer and incessant learner whose mission in life is to improve and empower the lives of others, and in particular, women and children. In her free time, Betsy enjoys traveling, spending time in nature, and contemplating the meaning of life. She is also a serial entrepreneur in real estate, and her brokerage is Pepine Realty. And I am so excited to talk to her and hear all about her new book. And Betsy is endorsed by her mentor, real estate mogul, Shark Tank, Barbara Corcoran. So I'm so excited to talk to her. Welcome, Betsy, to the show.
Well, thank you, Linda, for having me. We have so much in common.
I know. Incredible. I know. We were chatting before I hit record, and it's incredible. You were a single mother. I was a single mother. We're both in real estate, both doing, our passion and purpose work of helping others. So tell us a little bit about the beginning, wherever you want to start, and also why you wrote the book and about the book. Breaking Boxes, Dismantling Metaphorical Boxes That Bind Us. That's so intriguing. I love that title.
Okay, so I'll start. It's been a long journey to get to where I am, and I'm still on the journey, as we all are. When I graduated from college, so I was pre-med, and that's what you did in our family. That was what was expected.
Wait a minute. Are you Jewish too?
I'm Catholic.
Okay. I was going to say, oh my gosh, we have way too much in common. Okay. You're not, but that's what they did in your family. Your family, they were doctors. Okay.
Yeah, they were doctors. My dad's a doctor. I have a twin sister that's a doctor. My older sister's a doctor. They married doctors. We were all pre-med at the same college, and I knew I was not meant to be a doctor. It would have killed my soul. But to kind of appease everybody and myself, I went and got an MBA and then went into the pharmaceutical industry for a decade. So I kind of, it was pharmaceutical marketing. So I kind of had my little business background that I loved, but I was still in the healthcare field, which kind of, to me, I was straddling, appeasing everybody. And 10 years of that and a divorce allowed me the time to reflect on what is it I really want to do. And I truly felt like God was giving me this opportunity to start over. And what I remembered was when I was in graduate school, my favorite class by far was when we got to go into Philadelphia row homes, completely gut them, rebuild them with donated supplies and our labor. And then we went into the community and interviewed at-risk families and sold, quote unquote, sold them these homes, which were for a nominal price because most of it was donated supplies and labor. And to see the impact that a house could have on the trajectory of a family still brings chills to my bones. So I thought, you know what, this is the time when I'm going to try to make a difference that is meaningful to me as well. And I have to tell you, it was not met well in my family, because as you know, to be a realtor, you need a license that takes 1 week and you pass a state exam.
Yeah.
And and you don't even need a high school diploma. You can have a GED. So my family was thinking, what is she doing now? And it was hard. It was very hard for me because so much of my identity was wrapped up in being in a part of this family system. And to go outside of that box was very difficult for me. But I did it. I gave myself 2 years and said, if this fails, my backup plan was to go work we have a big hospital center, and I would go work in the marketing department of the hospital center. That was plan B. Fortunately, that never had to come to fruition. I absolutely loved real estate from the time made it a career. I knew I'd like it, but I didn't know I would love it. And I
Where,
truly, truly
yeah.
love it.
So 2 questions. Where did you begin in real estate? What company? Just curious. And 2, was this when you were divorced that you decided like the start fresh kind of thing? Like you were
Oh,
like,
yeah.
okay, I'm
I mean,
not.
everybody thought I was crazy. I'm leaving because I was the primary breadwinner in my marriage with the one with benefits. And I leave all of that and I go into real estate in 2006, which is a real estate
Risky.
market tanked in 2008. But I
Mhm.
didn't go into real estate timing the market. And I see agents who do that all the time. That's not a reason to get into real estate.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been about just over 18 years that I've been in. And yeah, so I jumped in and we wake up every day unemployed. And
Yeah, that's right.
that's a scary proposition, but when you go through a divorce, you feel like you can do anything after that. You really do. Or at
Yeah.
least I did. I felt like if I can get through that, I can get through anything. This is
Mm,
really my time. Um, so
yeah.
yeah, it was 18 years ago.
Yeah. I
And I
love,
started out you asked me who I started
yeah.
out with. It was ERA Trend at the
Okay.
time.
Yeah. ERA in Michigan when I live ERA.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
They
think
had
they're still
different.
here, but
Yeah, different franchises, Erie. Yeah, I had another guest on. I have a lot of transformational, inspirational stories similar to this, and you built so much. So I'm so excited to dive into how you did all that you did and created all that you created. But I had another guest who was a dental hygienist and she was going through divorce, and it was just devastating, and it literally changed her entire life. She is now an author. She is now a coach. She is now happily remarried. I mean, just beautiful, or engaged, I forget, but she has a beautiful story too. And it's always when we think things are, you know, the worst, or that what's perceived to be this horrible situation, that it
Mhm.
opens the door to something beautiful, that the beginning, right?
Exactly.
So I love that. So tell us how you created what you did. So you started, you're a single mom, you're in real estate. You must have had great mentors in the beginning, right?
Actually, I did not. That is one of my many regrets is that I did not get a coach or a mentor for probably 6 years. And I would recommend whatever profession you're in, coaches and mentors are just phenomenal. And I wish I had known to do that earlier. I'm so glad I did. But no, and the reason I got one, so I started out as an agent, loved it. In Florida, you have to be an agent for 2 years before you can be a broker. But honestly, even after 2 years, I knew I didn't know enough to go out on my own from a legal perspective. And so it was about 3.5, 4 years later, I went out on my own
That's
and
so
became a
gutsy.
broker.
Yeah.
Hmm?
That was so gutsy of you. That's beautiful. I mean, I love that you did that.
Well, I don't thrive in environments where I had a great broker at the time. He was somebody who I grew up with. It's just when I have an idea, I want to implement it. I don't want to have to get approval. I don't have to want to wait. I don't want to have to tweak it because it doesn't fit
Mm,
the brand standards, which I get now as an owner of the brokerage, but I didn't
mhm.
want to be the agent of a brokerage.
Gotcha.
So I went out on my own, and it was really just literally me and my little girls in the house. And that was my vision. I just wanted to be out on my own, do my own thing. My girls were my fulfillment center. They would spend their evenings, I would pay them, and they would lick envelopes for me, and they would go on
Mm,
showings with me, and they
mm,
would print out flyers for me. And it was really a team effort. And then over time, agents that I knew in the community that were unhappy where they were would just say, Betsy, can I just hang my license with you? And I'd be like, well, sure. I mean, I don't offer anything, but you're welcome to hang your license with me. And so that's how it started. And a couple of years later, I'm looking around and I've got all these agents in my home. I did hire an assistant, and I'm like, this is getting a little bit out of control. I need a plan. And I had just booked a vacation, a cruise for my girls and I, because we hadn't been on a vacation in years. And I was so looking forward to just taking a deep breath and saying, let's regroup. And 2 days before the cruise, my assistant came to me and said, we really need to meet. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. And I had all my notes on how I was going to have her run this ship while I was away. And she's like, don't get mad. Those are words I do not like to hear. And I'm like, what? And she said, I'm leaving. And I
Mm,
was like, oh my gosh, here I'm going away in 2 days on a cruise. And she's leaving and going to a very big competitor of mine. And I was floored. I did not see it coming at all.
mm,
And I said, and I could tell the decision had already been made. There was no talking
right.
her into staying, but I'm like, tell me, I want to learn what would have made you stay? What made you start to look? And she said, Betsy, there's three things. She said, I don't feel like I have a growth path here. But very true. There was no growth path. It was me and her. And these agents that come in and out, they're 1099s. I may not see them for a couple weeks and then they pop in the office. There was no growth for her. She said, I don't feel like we're a family here. And again,
It was
we
you,
weren't a family
right.
at all. And at the time, I had come from a very corporate background where a company, your employer, had these big walls around them, and you went to work, you exchanged your hours for a paycheck, and you went home to your family. You didn't come to work for family. So that whole paradigm was a big shift for me. I was like, oh, wow, you want to feel like family at work. That had never been modeled for me. I was like, I like that idea. It never crossed my mind. And then the last thing she said was, and we don't give back to the community. And that one really hurt my heart because that's all I do in my free time. But again, I had this idea in my head of what a company provides the employee, and it wouldn't be volunteer opportunities. That's what you do when you go home to your family and you volunteer as a family together. And so it really opened my eyes to what her needs were. And instead of going and packing for the cruise that night, I went to Barnes and Noble and bought all these books on culture, the
Mm,
Zappos book, founder of Facebook, founder of Google, looked at those companies. What were they doing to create a culture where employees love to stay?
mm,
And that was kind of the start of everything. And then when I got back from the cruise, I got a coach. I said, you know what, this is my time to get a coach. And I remember him sitting me down. He's like, Betsy, you got to go big or you got to go home. I said, I'm already home. We might as well go big. And so
oh my goodness.
that's how it started. And then we just built a plan, really to grow the brokerage. And then I started adding the other components, the title company, the property management. We have a
Staging.
real estate school, and we started adding the components after the brokerage was really kind of the rainmaker. And we saw, wait a minute, we have a set group of people that we're servicing, but they need a variety of different things. Let's create the verticals so we can be one-stop shop for everybody.
I love this. So again, here, this woman, which she was very smart. You had a very smart personal assistant or assistant, and then she gave you those gifts, and that
Mhm.
triggered your,
Yeah.
awareness, and you just started digging and learning.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
love that so much.
Mhm.
So you went on the trip, you came back, you hired a coach, right?
Yep.
You grew the business. And so when did you write the book? Because the book's coming out soon. And tell us about the book, why you wrote the book.
The book, so the book idea started about 7 or 8 years ago. Is I'm 55. This was in my 47, 48th year of life, approximately. I started, despite on paper, I felt like my life looked like a success. I felt myself unhappy and couldn't figure out why. And honestly, it took me a long time just to even admit to myself that I was unhappy, because I felt like I didn't have the right to be unhappy because so many
Yeah.
people have so much less, or different.
I
And
love it.
people want what I have. And for me to even remotely start to suggest that I'm not happy, to me almost felt irresponsible in a way, if that makes sense.
Right. You had
Um,
like shame around being unhappy. Like, how dare
I
I be unhappy? Like, I
I
have
did.
everything. I'm successful. I have two healthy children, beautiful children. I'm healthy. like,
I
why am I
did.
unhappy? So I love that you are so vulnerable and sharing honest and authentic. That's so beautiful because that's what we do here on this.
So what I was doing, so I was started, well, the first thing unrelatedly is I was scrolling on the internet one day at around that time, and I came across a picture of this girl. And I don't know if you can, this young girl, she's in a one-piece bathing suit outside on her lush green lawn, legs and arms spread out as wide as can be. She's looking up, rain is pouring down on top of her head, and she has this look of pure unbridled joy. And that picture just stopped me in my tracks. And I quickly, and it is now the screensaver on my phone,
And
the screensaver on my
tell
computer.
everybody what it says because they can't see. It says,
It says, remember her. She is still there inside you, waiting. Let's go get her.
mm,
And then I printed it on canvas, and it now sits beside my computer at home and at work. So I
mm,
had this need to surround myself with this girl, this picture. Then about a year later, we were hunkering down. I'm in Florida, like you. We were hunkering down for a hurricane. And for hurricanes, I just always usually have one project that I'm going to try to complete during the hurricane because the electricity is going to go out. So 2 hours into the hurricane, the electricity goes out, and I pull out my project, which was putting boxes of photos into photo albums. So I lit the candles and I started putting my photos into my photo albums. Finish that, go to put the boxes into the trash. And as I'm going to go put the last box in the trash, I notice there's a photo, uh, right side down in the bottom of the box. And I pulled out the photo, and it's dark. So I got to take the photo over to a candle, and I look at the picture. And I was like, oh my gosh. I run with the candle and the photo to the picture in in the room with the computer. And I look at
mm-mm.
the photo,
I know.
and then I look at the photo on the wall. And then I look back at the photo that I'm holding.
It's
And
you.
it's this picture of this little girl in her one-piece favorite red striped bathing suit. She's standing 3 feet in front of her father in the ocean, and she's moving towards her father, look like she's trying to hug a wave that's coming in. And on the bottom of that photo, in my mother's handwriting, it says, Betsy, age 4. And I was like, this is what I want. This picture looking at me, remember her. She's still there inside you,
Mm,
waiting. Let's go get her.
beautiful.
And I was on a mission then. I lost my way, and I was on a mission to find this little girl.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I started a journey of meditation, yoga, therapy, reading incessantly about inner child work, trauma, concepts I've never had before. And when I started to journal, I saw this trend that I was becoming increasingly unhappy the more I felt like I was in these boxes that my family of origin, my gender, my industry, my religion, society, and myself put myself in. And while some boxes I saw served me at some point in my life, but they no longer serve me, some never served me at all. And I was just didn't even realize that.
mm,
Um,
you were
I
waking
started,
up. Yeah.
yeah, I started waking up and saying and becoming incredibly intentional about everything in my life and moving towards that which
Good.
makes me feel good and joy and love, and moving away that which makes me feel heavy and bad and
Restricted.
um yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So
No.
that's how the book started, because I thought, gosh, if I'm going through this, these experiences I think are probably universal. And if my goal was just to help one woman, if one woman read my stories and thought differently about some aspect of her life and freed herself from a box that she may not even know she's in, then it was all worth it.
So beautiful. Yes, I am also familiar with the inner child work and the trauma and the therapy and all the things, reading books. I'm a book person, but what I want to say is I love that you started to realize what was truly important and what really makes you happy and how you were programmed basically from a young age, from your family, from society, all the things. And you were like, wait, where's my authentic self? Where's that inner child? Where's that happy girl?
Yeah.
What happened to her?
Mhm.
Where
Mhm.
is she? And
Mhm.
that's really what happened. And it was so wild how you saw that picture. I am similar to you that like I'll look on Instagram and if I see someone like super happy, it just like that means the world. Like that's what I want. That's all we really want.
Yeah.
And I love that. So when was that? What time frame? That was about how many years ago? Just curious.
That journey started when I was 47 and I'm 55, but I'm still on the journey.
Yeah,
I'm
we
not,
are.
you never arrive, you know?
No, it's ongoing. It's an onion peeling layers, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful though because I know so many women similar where like they grew up a certain way and then said, okay, well, I need money because we don't have it, so I'm going to do all these things and check all these boxes because that's what you do to get money, and then they find
Mhm.
themselves
Yeah.
miserable at whatever age when they
Yeah.
realize this isn't it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really amazing. So tell us, so are your daughter, I had just had to ask, are they realtors too? Just curious.
So one's a realtor, but she's actually going back to law school in August.
Okay.
But they both are in real estate in the sense that they were both in college during COVID. And one of my hobbies is Airbnbs.
Okay.
So I said, do you want to run these Airbnbs? Because that's something you can do remotely, make money, I'll pay you to run my Airbnbs for me. So they both ran my Airbnbs, and the one who's going back, and one still runs some Airbnbs, the other one took it and created a whole Airbnb property management company, and she manages Airbnbs all across the country now. But she's the one who's going back to law school in August, and then the other one is running some of my Airbnbs in Australia, where she's studying for
Oh
her
my
graduate degree.
goodness. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Oh, I love that. How did
yeah.
you get into investing in Australia?
No, she's in Australia.
Oh,
She's
okay.
in Australia managing my Airbnbs from Australia.
Oh, okay, got it. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so
No, I Australia's prices are housing prices are insane. I cannot
okay.
afford to invest in Australia.
Okay, just curious. Okay, beautiful. And then spiritually, you were started to say some things about, you mentioned earlier on about, your family of origin,
Mhm.
your religion, like what, just
Yeah.
curious, because we talk about spirituality here on podcasts, what were you born into?
So it's interesting because I was raised by a very strict Catholic mother and a Catholic father. I was married in the Catholic Church. I was divorced in the Catholic Church. I raised my children Methodist because they just had a phenomenal kids program. And I remember as a child not enjoying church, and I wanted my children to want to go to church. So they were raised Methodist. And then um, my both of my children came out as lesbian.
Hmm.
And the church, the Methodist church at the time was not very embracing of that. And so we left the church and we didn't go to church for a while. And more recently, and I talk about this in my book, I really wanted to return to my Catholic roots. And I live a half a mile from the church I was raised in, but I couldn't go there. Like I felt like that was a box for me growing up, and I couldn't go there authentically without them understanding my views. And so I we do confession in the Catholic Church. So I scheduled a confession and I went and did open confession, which most people have a screen between you and the priest, but I threw that curtain open. I said, I'm all in. I want to be transparent. I want to see your eyes. I want you to see me. And I was just like, I couldn't even remember how to do confessional. It had been 30 years. And I'm like, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. These are my sins. Haven't been to confession in over 30 years. And I said, I want to return to this church. It was the church that I grew up in, but only if you know my beliefs and are okay with them. And he said, proceed. And I said, a litany of things, but among them was that I had lived with my husband before we were married. So we consider that living in sin in the Catholic Church. I'm divorced and I have no intention of getting my marriage annulled. After my marriage, for a brief period of time, years later, I lived with another gentleman. So again, lived in sin in the eyes of the church. I believe in birth control. Both of my children are lesbian, and I'm fine with that. And he's like, is that all? And I said, no. I said, I think women should be able to be priests. And he's like, is that all? And I said, yes, that's all. And he said, say 3 Hail Marys and 2 Our Fathers, you have been forgiven. And off I went. And, I had mixed feelings about that, but at least I felt like if I came back to the church, it was on my terms. They knew my beliefs. I understand their beliefs, and I can attend mass and take what works for me and leave what doesn't work for me and be comfortable there. I wouldn't have felt comfortable if I hadn't have had that conversation.
Oh, well, whatever works for you. Yeah, absolutely. I love that you did what felt good for you. I think like really the bottom line to one wise woman once, she's older than me, once said to me back in Michigan before I moved to Florida, when I was already decided that I'm moving to Florida, like she literally said, pay attention to how you feel. It's literally
Mhm.
the like key to the castle. Pay
Mhm.
attention to how you feel. Like you felt
Yeah.
better. You went to the church, you did what you wanted to go to that church. You know what I mean? I study the Course in Miracles. I was born Jewish.
Mhm.
My dad chose to be an atheist. He said everyone hates Jews. My mother's side was from Russia. They didn't know much about Judaism, I think. And we had a Christmas tree, and I have my whole story, but like I'm more spiritual. I do like Shabbat candles every Friday. If I'm going to go to synagogue, it's going to be Chabad over there. But like I am
Mhm.
more spiritual. My son's spiritual. We're just like believe in a higher power source, God. I don't, a lot of
Mhm.
my community, my women's coaching, like they started out Christian usually, and then it just
Mhm.
doesn't, they don't like the black and white. So they're just choosing. And
Yeah.
that's what I do. I take what I like from Judaism. I take what I like from Christianity. I take what I like, and
Yeah.
I can believe what I want to believe. Just say
Mhm.
that's how I do
Mhm.
it. But
Mhm.
I love that it's really how we feel and honoring ourselves and learning to love ourselves,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
learning to love ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, and
Big part of I don't want to call it recovery, but my big part of my journey has been getting in touch with my emotions because again, in my family of origin, we never talked about how we felt. It was all, what do you think? What do the facts tell you? It was never were you asked, Betsy, how do you feel? We just weren't asked those kinds of questions. And so I grew up not even being able to recognize how I feel. And now I have this feelings wheel that I keep with me everywhere. And it's a round wheel that you start out with a very basic feeling, like say you feel joy, and then it gives you these options. Oh, is that elation, enthusiasm, optimism, proud, cheerful, all these different variances of what joy could mean. And then within those, there's even more refined definitions. And because if you can't name it, you can't claim it, and so it's hard to even recognize it.
I
So
love
I
that.
really try hard to check in with my feelings and simply move towards that which feels good.
Oh yeah. And we get to choose our thoughts. We can choose our thoughts like we choose our clothes. And a lot of us, we allow the brain and the mind to control things and to dictate things. And do you believe, Betsy, that we're energetic spiritual beings having a human experience?
Totally, totally.
Yeah. So we're
Yeah.
really we're not our bodies, we're not our minds. So
Right.
we get to take more control of our emotions and our thoughts. But that's really great because I grew up in the same thing. I mean, it was like, don't cry, here's an ice cream.
Mhm.
Like they didn't want you to like cry, but like now
Right.
we learn crying is super healthy and healing and it makes you feel better and you actually like feel your feelings is
Mhm.
how you
Mhm.
release things. Like it's really
Exactly.
powerful and healthy.
Mhm.
So that's amazing. So tell us more about the book. So you started on this journey of self-improvement and healing,
Mhm.
basically.
Mhm. And then the book took me about a year to write. It's really a compilation of all my stories of when I felt like I was in a box and how I and not boxes all boxes aren't bad. I want to be in the author box. So I wrote the book. I like what that means to me. And so that was a box I consciously sought out. I'm an identical twin. I love being in that box. That's probably the most precious box I belong in.
Mm,
And I would give up everything to stay in that box. So
mm.
it's not that they're, some boxes are good, some boxes are not so good. Some work at sometimes in our lives, sometimes we outgrow the box. So it's just the recognition of, is this working for me?
Nice,
Um,
nice.
yeah.
So tell us about it. So where's your identical twin and what does she do for a living? I'm just curious.
Well, she's a physician because that's what we do in our
All
family.
right. All right.
She's a physician. I have a sister who's 2 years older. She's a physician.
All right.
But she's not practicing right now, but she lives in North Carolina. So we are apart, but we talk almost every day.
Beautiful. And then tell us, did you have a coach? I'm writing a book also, process. It's a long journey because I'm doing so many different things and I got away from it. But I want to hear, did you hire or take a class for the writing of the book?
Did
No?
not. No.
Wow.
Highly recommend you do, but I did not. But I did hire a developmental editor. So I would submit chapters and she would just make sure, okay, this flows, this makes sense. You
No.
might need to do a little bit of clarity here because as an outside reader, I didn't know what you meant, things like that. So that really helped. And it also had helped keep me accountable because I had to turn in so many chapters every 2 weeks. And I love that. I love accountability. So
Hmm.
that kept me on track.
I love that too, because I purchased a course and then now I have lifetime access. The live trainings are no longer happening, but they're all recorded and I can go back and it's really, really good. It's just,
Mm.
yeah, I just have to get back on track and it's an inspiring memoir. Is yours an inspiring memoir?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. I love the name of your book, Breaking Boxes, because that's the paradigm, right? You're
Hmm.
just, these different boxes that we put ourselves in, and we don't
Yeah.
realize we have control. We can break out anytime, any single time, right?
Well, and the other thing I learned is part of my unhappiness was I wasn't calling out the boxes that I felt that I were in, even simple things. Like I remember the first time after I got divorced, I had to go to a medical appointment and they said, you got to update your medical intake sheet and its name, date of birth, all that. Then I get to marital status and there's 4 check boxes. One is single, one's married, one's divorced, and one is widowed. And I literally froze, offended that they're asking me to check a box because I knew the minute I checked a box,
They're labeling you.
thoughts and labels were going to be put on me,
Yeah.
right? That I didn't want. And the other thing was is I had just gone through it. It was the most painful thing I've gone through in my life. And to just check a box, it almost seemed like you're trivializing what my last 2 years have been like. And then the other thing was several things went through my mind. Am I single? Because I'm single, but I'm also divorced. And then at what point? But they want. My thinking is they would have thought I would have checked divorce, but at what point then do you get to check single? I'm 55. I was only married 9 years of my whole life. Do I still check the divorce box? I don't feel divorced. I feel single. And lastly, why in the world do they even need to know if I was in
Exactly.
a relationship that I deemed serious enough to take it to the courthouse steps to get recorded?
Why does it
That
matter? Yeah.
why does it matter to anybody, let alone a physician? It
Yeah.
doesn't. So
I
I
know.
turned in that I didn't check off the box.
Good
And you know
for you.
what? They were still able to give me a pap smear. So, so
Yeah,
it's just like,
exactly.
you know, saying no
Yeah,
to
your
things
power.
that, yeah,
You don't have to answer. It's not a requirement to answer this to be taken care of. Yeah, I
right.
agree with you. I don't like that either. It just makes you like almost even judge yourself too when you're filling
Yeah.
in the box. Um,
Mhm.
and I was never divorced, so I chose not to marry my son's father because I knew I would be divorced. So I
Uh-huh.
don't know what it's like to go through a divorce, but I was a single parent. We didn't get along, but I was curious. Did you get along with the father? Is he involved? Was he involved with the girls? Just curious. And then also, I know that divorce, from what I've heard, is like a death. It's
Mhm.
literally mourning, it's a
Mhm.
lot. So I
Yeah.
totally have deep compassion for you for that. And I know
Yeah.
it's so was it
It was absolutely devastating.
okay?
I had known him, I mean, I've known him since I was 9. And we dated off and on since I was 12. And we got married when I was 23, and I left when I was 32. Um, we're we're cordial.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And fortunately my girls do have a relationship with him.
Yeah.
He agreed to move back. We were living in Philadelphia, and he agreed to move. We all moved back together to our hometown to get divorced, which seems odd. We moved together to get divorced and raise the family in our hometown because we knew we had so much family support here, and we knew that's what was best for the children. And that has been just beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah. My son grew up 1 mile. His father lived 1 mile apart the entire time. We were 1 mile apart from each other
Nice.
the whole time. So
So
that was good. But yeah. So a little more on the book. So tell us, what would you want someone to take away from the book? I know you want them to buy the book. It's coming out, but who is the book for? I mean, we kind of talked about it, but is it
yeah.
for men
I
and
mean, the
women?
book
Yeah.
is geared towards women. Usually I would say my girls are 25, 26. They enjoyed reading the book from kind of like the lessons that I've learned. So I would say from about their age, really on up to
Yeah.
70, 75 years of age. It's not, Barbara Corcoran is a mentor of mine, and she has provided the blurb for the front and an endorsement on the back, but it's not a book only at all designed for business women. I mean, there's so many stories in there that have nothing to do with me in my career. It's being a single mom, being what society considers the good mom, the good, how you parent. It talks about being the good wife, being the good daughter. I mean, there's so many roles that are applicable to all females. So the career part, there are stories about the confinement I felt in my career, especially with regards to my gender, but it really is applicable and has messages for anybody, whether they're in the business world, or if they're a domestic homemaker or whatever they choose to do. I believe the message is for everybody and universal for women.
I love that. That's great. Yeah, it sounds like the book is teaching us to let go of the perfectionism. And I just heard perfectionism every time you said the good wife, the good
Mhm.
mother. I'm like, I
Yeah.
was that mother, and I was that, super mom, he
Mhm.
had a party. I had to have
Mhm.
everything perfect. So I was worried what everybody thought. And now
Mhm.
today I'm just less worried
Yeah.
what other people think.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and one of the things I talk about at the end is, and I really try to do this on a daily basis, is being very intentional about understanding, am I making this decision based on fear or based on love? And what I found was so many of my decisions I was making them based on fear of loss of a relationship, loss of financial security, loss of my reputation, what I perceived other people to think of me, or my reputation or my status. They weren't based on moving towards love, that's what I want in my life. I'm not talking about romantic love, just love in the general sense, but I'm making all my decisions based on fear. So it's just a huge discrepancy of intention. And just that shift alone has really transformed my life and brought more joy into my life.
Amazing. I love that so much because, I studied the Course in Miracles, and the entire course is really the miracle is the shift in perception from ego, lack, and fear to love,
Mhm.
abundance, and higher self.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about your women and children, like you're working to empower, like,
Yeah, I've always felt this need. I think especially since I've had mentors that are several steps ahead of me, I've always felt that I need to also look behind me and pull up those people. And so I've had a passion for women and children. The way that manifests itself is that I work with recently released prisoners, women, and teach them financial peace because a lot of them they don't have a lot of life skills. I'm generalizing and I'm not saying that's everybody, but they're missing how to manage finances. A lot of them don't know how to manage finances. And so I teach them how to manage finances. It's starting from base, they leave prison with nothing. So there's really not whole lot to manage, but it's so critical that they get the basics and know how to save and know how to build their emergency fund and invest and pay yourself first, things like that. And so I teach that with the prisoners who have been recently released. And then the other piece of my work is through the foundation that we have called Pepine Gives, and we fundraise year in and year out for that. And we build houses for at-risk families, but at-risk families in our area are mainly single moms with children.
Mm.
And so we provide the housing for them, and then they get low interest loans. It's not a handout, it's a hand up. And they get low interest loans and they also take classes on home ownership and financial stability and making sure that we're not setting them up for failure once they get into the home. But those are the main ways we give back. And then we also do a lot with homelessness, with providing stuffing backpacks for children when they go back to school, so they would make sure that they have food when they go home for weekends and holidays. We also do a lot of meal serving we have a couple of large homeless shelters in our area, and we do regular donating of meals to those homeless shelters. And we've in the past done Meals on Wheels, where we deliver hot meals to the elderly homebound people that can't get out and have a hot meal. So those are the ways that I try to give back that help directly women and children.
That's beautiful. How does that compare to the Habitat for Humanity?
We are a partner with them, great organization, and we partner with them and sponsor their homes. So they build and you can, as long as you fundraise enough money, you can become a sponsor, and then you get to work alongside the families and get to know them and build the house with them, because they have to do, in our area, they have to, the family that's getting the home, in addition to purchasing the home, they have to put in 240 hours of work. And so you really have an opportunity to get to know the families that are going to be moving into the homes.
Nice, very nice. So tell us about your personal self-care practice. Did you learn through all the growth, healing, all the things around the self-care? I'm sure you did, how important that is. Do you have like a practice or meditation or like a morning practice, like some non-negotiables you want to share with everybody about what you do to take care of you so you feel your best, Betsy?
So anybody that knows me well knows me. I am incredibly intentional about my time and what I receive. So what I see, read, hear, and in my environment, I'm very intentional. And so, like, I don't listen to the news. I just don't. In fact, it is scary at times, but like, I didn't know this thing with Trump for quite a while. Everyone knew but me. But I have to do that to protect my peace. And so I'm fine with that. I mean, yes, occasionally I hear things a day late. It's not the end of the world. But what I benefit is worth so much more. So I don't listen to the news. I don't have cable.
That. I don't either. I love you so much. I learned about that during my open house yesterday when the girl who was shadowing me literally told me. I had no idea. So thank you for just making me feel better that I'm not like ignorant, like, oh, I don't watch the news. I just can't have that negativity and fear in my life.
Right.
It's just not going to serve. But go ahead. Sorry. I had to say.
But in terms of rituals, so in the morning, I'm a morning person. So I do a gratitude journal. I like to meditate. I have I have a couple of apps on my phone that I use to meditate. I
Oh, good.
exercise. I have a treadmill and a home gym, and then I also walk my dogs. Um, those are the big things in the morning for me. Oh, and then okay, yeah, and then at night, I wind down the night with I do gratitude. And then I also set up my day for the next day. So I write down what I want to, it's like usually three things I want to accomplish, three things I want to manifest, and three things that that will bring me energy the next day. So that I've kind of be proactive about how my day is going to be instead of letting it just happen. And then I do have a habit tracker that I do every night. So every month the habit tracker is just a sheet of paper. It's a grid, and on the left are the habits that I'm working on that month, and across the columns are just the days of the month, so 1 to 30 or 1 to 31. And so I'll pick usually anywhere from 8 to 12 habits that I'm working on, and they will reappear month after month until they become ingrained, and then that habit gets retired because it's already a part of my life, and then I add a new habit.
Mm.
So like right now, one of the things that I'm tracking, and I have to be intentional because if I'm not, it won't happen. So one of the things I'm really working on is joy. And I have to be intentional about bringing joy into my life because if on a daily basis, because if I don't, it won't happen. It wasn't modeled in my home. I had great core values modeled in my home, but joy wasn't one of them. And I want it to be. And so that's one of the things I'm tracking. And it's been on my tracker for several months because it's not an ingrained habit yet. But I make sure that I plan something, even if it's a picnic outside for dinner, and I can enjoy my birds. I have a bird feeder and I can enjoy the birds in nature, but just I have to make sure that I have joy in my life every day. So I have this habit tracker and I check off, and it's amazing what one little dot, like knowing that I'm going to have to look at that every night and either put a dot or don't put a dot, how motivating that can be. So every night I check off the habits that I completed that day, and think about the ones that I want to make sure I get to tomorrow.
Mm.
Um, and then I read. I'm an incessant reader, so that's how I end up going to bed. I read old-fashioned books. You know,
Oh,
not I don't like to read online. I do like to hold a book in my hand.
are you reading self-improvement or are you also reading other things?
I have really over the last years, and I used to love fiction, and the last 10 years I've really steered towards nonfiction, but self-improvement, business. I love business books. I love investing books. Right now I'm learning about day trading, which is just, I just love to learn. I'm an incessant learner and so curious about everything. And then I also do love true crime. I don't know why, but that also is always appeals to me, fascinates me.
That's awesome. I feel like you're some kind of a soul sister. I feel like the universe always brings me these amazing guests that I align so well with. You mentioned three things you want to manifest the following day also. So you said three
Mhm.
things. Tell me about that because it just really intrigues me.
So, like last night, um, I knew that I was going to have a podcast with you today. So, I mean, I do pray to source, God, whatever we want to call that entity, or I don't even entity, whatever, that universal thing, that I said something today that would resonate with you, the host, that hopefully will change and reframe the way you do something or the way you see something. So
So beautiful.
those are that's what I feel like it works because I don't like to just hope it happens. I want to be very clear. I get very quiet. I put my hands together, close my eyes, and I envision it. So those are the kinds of things that I work on the night before.
So beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much. I feel like this was so beautiful and full of so much goodness. And you have been really generous with just everything you shared was so good. I love listening to it. Just that you're doing so much for others with the coaching women, I mean, it's incredible. I feel like women in general have been put in a box and not, taught a lot of this finance stuff and a lot of,
Mhm.
I mean, it's just in general, like
Yeah.
I learned in one of the books I read or podcasts I was listening to, like we just were allowed to have a checking account in 1970 or
70s
something,
and a credit card.
a credit
It's
card without our
crazy.
husband or somebody. It's like, it's
Mhm.
wild.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I remember right when I got married, which would have been 1994, we opened up a joint checking account. And I was the primary breadwinner. And the bank application, that it was a gentleman sitting across from us, and he filled it out and he put my husband as there used to be primary account holder, secondary account holder, and the primary account holder had all the privileges. The secondary account holder had some of the privileges. And I'm like, why? And this was 1994. I said, why did you put him as the primary? And he kind of, I don't even remember what he said, but he didn't really have a good answer. I said, but you didn't ask. And I got up, we walked out. I'm like, I'm not gonna bank at a bank that makes the assumption that the male is the primary
uh,
account owner. I don't even know what that means. Now they just call it, I think it's just like they say one and two or something. They don't say primary and secondary. Or it's called borrower and co-borrower, or,
yeah,
account, whatever,
yeah,
co-account.
count and
But no, that infuriated me.
yeah, I was going to tell you when you said that. So I was calling when I decided to get a bank account, business account for my coaching business. And I was talking to someone and I forgot exactly what entity it was, but I think it was Small Business Administration or something here in Florida. And the guy said, well, you should be able to, you're a minority. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, as a woman, you're a minority and you should be able to receive whatever. It was such a like thing. And then when I went to the first bank to open a business account, the way I was treated, I didn't really like how I was treated. I did end up at a credit union and I got what I wanted out of them. But the point is, it was really wild because I
Mhm.
don't live in that world. I don't notice these things. I didn't
Mhm.
realize, but we are as women minorities.
Yeah.
Very interesting,
And
right?
it conflicts me. So our chamber has these awards every year, and they recognize businesses that have done well in the community. And so I wanted my staff and agents recognized, and so we applied for these awards. And you can check off all a box, right? A box what your business would qualify for. And the two categories that we would have qualified for would have been large business of the year based on the number of agents and staff we had. And then the other category that I read, it said leading women's enterprise with an asterisk. I read the asterisk, it says at least 51% female owned. So I'm like, oh, okay. Let me see where leading men's enterprise is.
There isn't
There's
one.
no category of leading men enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
And I was conflicted because I really wanted my company to win, but I didn't want an award based on my gender and vagina. I
Exactly.
don't. I
Right.
don't. And so I checked just the large business of the year. And the chamber called me and they said, Betsy, you forgot to check leading women's enterprise. You'd be a shoo-in for that. And I said, no. I said, I don't want it. And they're like, are you sure? I said, I'd rather not win than win that. And I'm not saying it's hard because it's like, I know how do you recognize if you feel like we have been discriminated against, which I believe we have, how do you bring people up who have been discriminated against? But I don't want a handout. I don't want something just because of my gender. That doesn't send the message that's empowering. I want to win. I want to win, and it's all the genders, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. We've got a long way to go.
Yeah, we do. There's a book that I think you would really enjoy. I want to share with you and her podcast. I don't know if you can get on it. She wrote an amazing book, Take Back Your Brain. She's a feminist, which we all are if you want equal, just in her book, I realized, oh, I'm a feminist too. Because, that word, we just don't, it's a whole thing. But anyway,
Right.
um, but I'll send you her information. Oh, it's called Unfuck Your Brain, Feminist Self-Help for Everyone. That's her podcast. Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it. I'll
Yeah.
have to look it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I find her name? Lowenthal, Kara Lowenthal. And so she wrote a book called Take Back Your Brain, and it's really good and so interesting. One of the things she says in the book is when we have that self-critic, that inner critic that's saying all these things, what if it was in a man's voice? It was really interesting. And it was like, what? Oh my goodness, interesting. But before we go, I want to hear about Barbara Corcoran and how you got connected with her and all of that real quick, if you don't mind.
Just a wonderful woman, very empowering, very much a pro female entrepreneurs, especially in real estate. She's come a long way, and
I only
I
really
got
heard her
connected.
from online. I heard her story, but I heard her the whole story, and then obviously know her from Shark Tank. But
Yeah, yeah.
how did you meet her and all that?
So I had a gentleman in New York who was managing my TV and radio spend, and he reached out to me because he knows her and asked if I would want to partner and have a relationship with her. And, we shoot commercials. We can shoot commercials, I think about 3 times a year if we'd like. I don't go up that often. She lives in New York City, but I'm going to be going up in September to see her. Um, so that's how that partnership started.
Mm,
She's wonderful and she's really done a successful job. I loved watching her rebrand herself after she sold her real estate company. She knew she couldn't pigeon herself. She didn't want to just be in the real estate box. And she moved and did a phenomenal job, in my opinion, making her brand about entrepreneurism,
mm,
not just about real estate. And
mm.
watching her do that has been very inspiring to me. And I love seeing somebody, and I don't like bringing age into it, but one of the reasons why I was so glad to get out of pharmaceutical marketing is I didn't see many people over 60, women over 65 in the pharma industry.
Mhm.
And when I got into real estate, there were 80, 85-year-old agents knocking it out of the park. And I loved seeing that. If anything, age helps you in real estate.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I love that you don't see many people, females Barbara's age, still in the media as much as she is. You've got Martha Stewart, trying to think of, and some news people, people, interviewers and stuff. But I love that she has kept herself relevant.
Oh, yeah. It's so incredible. So beautiful. Thank you for this amazing conversation. Thank you for being here. I'm so glad to meet you. I love talking to you.
Yes, it was great.
I'm
And a
excited.
fellow Florida realtor. Love
Yes,
it.
yes. And how many agents do you have over there? Just curious.
We always waver between 45 and 75. We actually go about an hour south of Ocala, and go all the way to the state line of Georgia, and we go coast to coast. So
Mm,
we cover a wide range. Right now we have about 50 agents.
okay.
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah, well, definitely send each other referral business because I'm
absolutely. I
not
love
going
that.
to Ocala. And I know there's a lot of people in Ocala because isn't that where the village is? Is that where the
The
village?
Villages is a little bit south of there, but that's this general area. And then they're known. Ocala just recently built that huge World Equestrian Center.
Okay.
It's phenomenal. So it gets a lot of publicity from that.
Nice. Well, we'll put all your links in the show notes and your book is
Okay.
coming out when? September.
September 23rd, and you can find it's on Amazon pre-sale right now, but it's only available pre-sale through, I think it's Kindle, but it'll be hardback, softback, Kindle, and ebook on the 23rd. And you can also go to my name, betsypepine.com, and sign up for my newsletter and also do the pre-order of the book.
Beautiful. Wonderful.
Okay.
Congratulations. I'm writing a
Oh,
book.
thank you. And good luck at yours.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This was so great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It means so much to me that you are here listening. I know you have so many options of things to listen to, so it means so much to me that you are here. I hope you enjoyed it and found value. If you did, the best way to support the podcast is by sharing, subscribing, and leaving a review. I really want to help as many people as I can. If you know anyone who is looking for support, who is looking for a coach, you can find me at lindabrandcoach.com or www.lindabrandcoaching.com. I'm also on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, all the places. Have a beautiful rest of your day and live empowered. Take care.